Welcome to Town Yoga. If you need a little break from cleaning or a short stretch to work out things that have gotten a bit tight, join me for these 2-minute yoga breaks. Here together we'll practice and learn some short, simple yoga sequences that you can take on your own throughout the day whenever you feel a little bit tight or a little bit stressed and you just need to let some of it go. So welcome to 2-minute yoga breaks. All you need for this practice is a clear space on the ground. So once you've cleared a space, maybe gotten a towel or a blanket for some cushion or support as needed, our first yoga break is going to be in tabletop. That's hands and knees. So come on to hands and knees, cushioning the knees as needed. You can even put a towel under the ankles if it's uncomfortable to rest the tops of your feet down. You can tuck your toes, your preference. And then we have a nice spread to our palms, our fingers pointing forward here, just under our shoulders or a little bit in front, finding what's comfortable. And in this first yoga break, we're going to start with a nice classic cat-cow, some healthy spinal movement. To come into your cow pose, you just start to let your belly lower down to the ground as you lift your chin, looking upwards gently, finding this little kind of arch in the spine. And then to pair this, we're going to come to cat, where you start to lift the belly up, tucking your chin towards your chest as you look back behind you. Pausing here with this nice arched back. Now we're going to pair it with our breath. As your belly lowers down and you start to lift your gaze, you breathe in. And then we start to lift our belly up and lower our gaze as we breathe out. Finding your cow pose, breathing in. The shoulders kind of draw back as you lift your chin. And then breathe out, you'll press and you'll round the shoulders. They even come forward a little as you lift up through the spine. Belly down, breathing into your cow. Lifting up and back into your cat a few times at your pace now. You can always stay on one end if it feels good, or you can just keep flowing with your breath. They can be really small movements or very large. It's just about getting things moving. The spine as well as the muscles that run alongside of it. And then from here, we're going to pause in the center. And we're going to continue spine movement, but now it's going to come side to side a bit. So I want you to draw your right shoulder closer to your right hip and send your left side out to the left into this kind of C shape. And then the opposite, we're going to bring the left shoulder towards the left hip and send the right side of the body over to the right. And you're just going to flow side to side here like you did your cat-cows. So you can breathe in for half and then out for half. Or you might hold it off to the side for a full breath and just take a little rocking motion. That can feel nice in the side of the body and the hips. So I invite you to explore a little bit between your cat-cows and your kind of C curls here, making your own unique yoga flow with your breath. And as you start to settle back into the center, we're going to add one more posture right in here, and that's to thread the needle. So now we're going to add a little gentle twist into the spine. You can move your right hand forward just a touch, and this will give you some room to lift the left palm and start to reach it underneath, and keep reaching out to the side as you bend your right elbow, lowering the left side of your body down towards the ground, where you'll pause either in the air or on the mat for a whole breath here, and then gently press back into the center. And you can put your left hand now next to where the right is. You have room to reach the right hand under the body. Palm is up as you bend the left elbow to lower your right side gently down, reaching as far out with that right hand. and then breathing in to lift back up. We're going to do each side again. Left hand, thread the needle, reaches under, find that little twist in the spine as you bend the right elbow to lower yourself down towards the ground. Take a full breath when you get here, in and out. You might feel a little shoulder stretch or just the twist. And then we'll press back up to the center. And let's take this on the second side again, threading the right hand under, bending the elbows, you lower down, and we'll pause here for a moment. A nice slow breath or two in and out. Pressing back up to the center. And that can be the end of your tabletop yoga sequence, or if you're taking this on your own and you have a little extra time, you might come right into this nice extended child's pose, where the knees are out wide, my big toes are together as my hips sit down to heels, and then you just start to walk your hands out in front of you, and you might just come to here and find a stretch, or you might start to walk out a little further and even lower your head down to the ground. Anywhere in between there, you'll find that kind of stretch in the lower back as you pause and take a few rounds of breath. For today, let's walk the hands back on up and get into our next 2 to 3 minute yoga break. So that was a first sequence that I invite you to take as a break because it brings the spine and the muscles that run along it through some really healthy movements. Kind of our flexion and extension, and then same with lateral, side to side, and then that gentle twist, so it can loosen up a lot of things in here. Now this next one is a seated yoga break, so this is going to feel really good for the head and neck. I'm going to take a seat on this blanket. You can join me on the ground, on a blanket or a towel, or just directly on the ground. Or you can take this sequence at the end of a bed or a couch if you can sit on the end of those. You just want to have something you can reach off to either side of you to kind of hold your balance as we take our stretch here in a moment. So this second one is a seated yoga sequence, and we're going to start with a seated cat-cow. So like we did in tabletop, we'll bring our hands to our knees now. And let's start with that cat spine, the rounding. Let your shoulders round back a little bit, chin to chest. And you're going to feel a little stretch through the back. And then for seated cow, start to bring your belly up and forward. Your shoulders kind of draw back and together as your chest and chin lift upwards. And this is our seated cow. Now with our breath, exhale, press and round, seated cat. Inhale, forward, lifting up, seated cow. Breathing out as you round. Breathing in as you lift. A few times at your breath pace. Inhale, lifting up to seated cow. You're just going to flow here a little bit between these two again. This time from a comfortable seat. And if you have trouble finding a comfortable seat, if your lower back is rounding, definitely sit on a little cushion. And also I invite you to stop here in the center and to join me on Patreon, where I have my Yoga for Absolute Beginner series that has an entire lesson on the anatomy and alignment of finding a comfortable seat for your unique body. So if you struggle with seated yoga poses, definitely join me over on patreon.com. Now let's take a nice little neck stretch here. We're going to reach our hands out to the sides, and I want you to let your ear come a little closer to your shoulder. So you just let the head come down to one side. Lift the hand of that side and gently place it on the opposite side of the head. Don't press, but just let the weight of your hand draw you a little deeper into this neck stretch on the side of our body as you continue to reach the grounded hand away. Take a nice slow breath in and out. before you let the head on your hand float back down, coming back to center. And then opposite side, just letting the ear lower towards the shoulder, pausing as you feel the stretch. And then we're going to reach that hand up and place it on the very top side of our head, not pressing, just the gentle weight of the hand, bringing you deeper into the stretch. And pause for a breath. And then we're going to slowly lower this down. And now we have this nice little flow for the side of our body and neck all set up here. So this hand, it's going to be your left, probably as I'm mirroring. Your left is going to come down. And I want you to start to reach your right up and over and feel this kind of stretch on the right side of your body. And now look down and let the shoulder follow, kind of squaring them towards the ground. And then I'd like you to look up and let the shoulder follow as you kind of open and stack. And now with our breath, we're going to breathe out, look down, shoulder follows. Breathe in, look up, shoulder stack. And just take this a few times, and if it feels good to pause somewhere, go ahead and pause there. If it feels nice to add into the flow, maybe some arm movements, feel free. Let's take 2 to 3 more rounds of breath on this side. And then the next time you open up the chest, shoulder stack, press yourself back up to the center, and opposite side, we're going to lower the hand down, sweep up and over. Feel that gentle stretch through the side of the body. And then we're going to let the shoulders both face the ground, looking downwards. And then as we breathe in, we're going to look up, stack the shoulders. Breathing out, looking down. Breathing in, looking up a few times, adding in additional movements or more restful movements based on what you need here in your short yoga break. The next time you open up, we're going to lift up back to center and pause here in a nice tall seat. Again, if this was your yoga break from cleaning, maybe you would sit here for a little bit longer with eyes closed and just take a few deep breaths before you moved on. But since I'd like to show you a few different yoga breaks today, we're going to move on to one more, and this one is going to be a reclined yoga break. So a break that you can take throughout the day and just lay down and take a nice stretch and breath from there. So any clear space that you like to lay down, I'll use the blanket as a pillow sometimes, or just leave it off to the side, your choice. And for this last short yoga sequence, we're going to lay on our back with our knees bent. And if you can't see the video anymore, that's all right. I'm going to talk us through this one, and it's a pretty simple movement. So here you are laying on your back with your knees bent and your feet planted. Go ahead and bring your feet a little bit wider than your hips. If you're on a yoga mat, it's going to be about as wide as the yoga mat. And now your hands, if you have the space, you can open them out wide to either side of you. Or if not, just leave a bend in the elbow and rest your fingertips on your rib cage. For windshield wipers, we're going to lower both knees off to the right and let them pause for a moment. They don't need to reach the ground, and that left hip might lift up a little, completely fine. Like the windshield wipers on a car, we're going to lift both knees back up to facing the ceiling, and then lower both knees just over to the left. That right hip might lift away from the ground a little. From here, we'll come back to center, and we're going to take this side to side now with our breath. As you breathe out, both knees lower down to one side. And then as you breathe in, you just draw them to face back up towards the ceiling. Breathe out, lowering them down together the opposite direction. Breathing in as you lift up. Breathing out. And in at your pace, side to side. And you can always adjust the feet. You can bring them a little closer, a little further away from your body or each other, and it's just going to change the angle of your stretch a little bit. So you can explore and find the one that's best for you today. The next time both of your knees are pointing up to the center, walk your feet in so they're just in front of your hips now. They're hips width distance apart. We're going to take a little active hamstring stretch for each leg and also a nice outer hip stretch. So starting with the right leg, I'd like you to just lift the right foot up. And what you're going to do is just bend and extend your knee a few times, extending it as you reach your right leg out towards straight. You might even straighten it. And then bend it back. And then extend it back out. If your leg doesn't straighten as you do this, I do have a yoga for super tight hamstrings video that you might like to check out. And if your leg does straighten, you might try lifting the foot a little higher as you do this. So as you straighten the leg and then bring the foot towards your face. A few times. Bend, straighten, draw back, or you're just bending and extending. The next time we put that foot to straight, we're going to come into a figure 4 here. So the outside of this right ankle is going to come rest on top of the left knee. And you can always adjust if you need more space, the left foot's further away. If you want more of a stretch, the left foot comes closer into the body. But pause here and check in and see how your figure 4 stretch feels on the kind of outside of the right hip, making sure our knee feels okay. If it's too much, you just walk that left foot out a little. That can relieve some tension. And now this would be kind of the standard part right here, but I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can do this figure 4 that you might enjoy. Because if you've made it to this part of the video, you're ready to learn some good yoga breaks that can be different for the different people watching. So this is option 1 for figure 4, just staying right here. Option 2 is you lift your left foot up and you bring your hands around that left thigh, your hands or a towel, whatever can reach, and you can use that to kind of deepen that stretch on the right foot. And this feels really nice sometimes. However, my favorite is to leave the left foot planted and then to let this whole thing just tip over to the left. So if my hands are out wide, the foot here, my right foot, is going to come all the way down and meet the ground into this nice figure 4 twist. And I like to rock down and back up a few times. That's one of my favorite stretches here. So you can take figure 4 any way you like for the next few rounds of breath. Just planted, lifted, or take the twisting version I offered. Yogi's choice. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath on this side. And then slowly reach that right foot back into the air. Again, straighten or towards straight, and just let the ankle move a little bit. Give some healthy movement into the ankle joint here. Drawing the toes back to the shin for a moment. And set the right foot down. Now we're going to do that same sequence on the opposite side. So we lift the left foot up, and then we start to just bend and extend the left knee. Again, maybe this is a full stretch for you today. Maybe as you start to straighten the leg, you start to bring it closer to the torso to deepen the hamstring stretch. We are all at different levels, so let your break kind of meet you where you need to be. And if you feel any kind of snapping or popping in the hip here, I also have a hips and hamstrings yoga video you might like, so I'll try to link these all below. The next time your left leg is straight, let's bring the outer ankle to the top of the right knee into your figure four. And take a moment to pause in your figure four on this second side and see how it feels, because each side is a little different. You might need to adjust how far away the planted foot is. Again, maybe you lift the planted foot up and hug the thigh with a towel or your hands for a little different angle on the stretch. Or again, maybe one of my favorites, our little kind of bonus one in here. With the right foot planted, I bring my hands to the sides, and I'm just going to bring the sole of this left foot over to the ground. Tap that down into a twist, and then slowly lift back up. And this is just one of my favorite side body stretches, so I always want to give options, especially in these short yoga breaks that you're just taking to kind of explore and feel a little better in throughout the day. So find your favorite version of figure four and just take a few more rounds of breath in and out here. If the right foot is lifted up, go ahead and lower it down. And we'll reach that left foot back up into the air, giving the ankle a little circle. And then drawing the toes back to the shin before you bend the knee and set it down. A nice way to finish this kind of reclined yoga break is right here with the knees bent. Just bring your feet out a little wider than the hips and let your knees fall in towards one another. Sometimes that can broaden the lower back as you let your hips kind of tilt back. And you can find a nice release and opening in the lower back here, hands down by the sides, for a few rounds of breath, or maybe a longer break than you intended because you just might need it. If it feels good to stay here, go ahead and stay here. When you are ready to get up, you'll just walk the feet together so you can roll over onto one side and press yourself back up to seated or standing, whatever you need. So those were our 3 short yoga breaks that you can take whenever you just need a little break throughout the day. It doesn't have to be a long yoga practice. Remember the first one, we were in tabletop and we just took the spine through some healthy movements, cat-cows, side to side, and a little twist as we reached under. And then we did that seated practice where we did our cat-cows there. We stretched our neck a little bit and then opened up the sides of the body, kind of closing and opening. So that's a nice sequence you can take. Or you can do the reclined one where we came down to laying down. We did a few of those windshield wipers, stretched the hamstring, and then enjoyed that figure 4 stretch. So those are 3 short yoga breaks you can take anytime you need a break. If you would like more about how to practice yoga in your tabletop, in your seat, or reclined, definitely join me over at patreon.com, where I have an entire series, Yoga for Absolute Beginners, where I really break down the alignment so you can be safe and comfortable in practicing yoga in those areas, no matter who's teaching it. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to seeing you in the next practice.